Walton can tip it. Bryant with the save.
Oh, you got to get a shot here.
Final seconds. Bryant for the win. Bang!
Welcome back to the MVP podcast, the People Show, where we talk about the most valuable players in the world of sports. My name is B-Man, and I am here to talk to you about NBA, man. We have been so inconsistent, man. We've been so inconsistent. And even after 2 years, guys, of being perfect and not missing, we've gone and missed loads in 2021, so we need to fix that. So today you're going to find that I am here by myself because I really wanted to talk basketball, number one, and number two, I need to keep this channel going because I love sports, right? But right now, I want to focus on three specific topics. And the first topic that I wanted to talk about was the trade deadline, and it's coming up fast. But I wanted to focus on one player that has his image changed over the last year, and that's Victor Oladipo. Now, Victor Oladipo was an all-star type of player, all-defense type player, and he got injured. And I think we're judging him entirely too quickly coming off of that injury because he hasn't looked the same. But in my opinion, I think he's still performing at a very high level, which is why he's being involved in trade rumors and in trade talks. And there's several teams that are really interested to get him. But let's talk about Victor Oladipo himself first. Now, Indiana Pacers didn't want to pay him the money that he wanted, so they knew that they had to move on from him. So he was part of the James Harden trade early in the year. He ended up at the Houston Rockets, and things have kind of gone upside down. He even mentioned in the press conference that it's just been a very turbulent time. It's just been very chaotic for him. There's been too many changes. The team where it's now, it's not where it was before. Like PJ Tucker is going to get traded, so they pulled him out. Christian Wood has been injured for ages, so a lot of these young players are getting a lot of time. And even John Wall has been injured for the last couple of games. So it's not been a good place to be in, especially for Victor Oladipo, who sees himself to be one of the premier players in the league. Now, who would want him? Who could afford to take on that $20 million contract that he has to his name? Now, there's been quite a few teams that have been put out there. One of them was the New York Knicks. And I'm going to reserve the New York Knicks for a different podcast because I will spend the whole podcast talking about the New York Knicks, right? There's also Dallas, who could really use another ball handler on their team. But the one that really intrigues me is the Golden State Warrior one. Now, the Golden State Warrior one is the one that is being pushed the most. It seems like the Golden State Warriors are the one that are the most aggressive based on rumors anyway. And there's packages that they can put together to give for Victor Oladipo. And whether or not they're willing to do so, I'm just going to leave that on the side. I just want to talk about the possibility of this trade happening, the possibility of this trade happening. Now, I was listening to a podcast earlier today, and they mentioned that, well, why would you need Victor Oladipo if you're going to get Klay Thompson back? And my argument is, well, what's the problem with that, right? You can play Klay on the wing, and you can have Victor Oladipo playing the shooting guard position and Steph playing the point guard. What that also does is it can keep Steph Curry off of the ball completely. Well, not completely, because you want him on the ball as often as possible, but it allows you to play a lot of different ways in order to maximize both Steph and Klay by having another ball handler on the team that can also create for himself. And guys, it's you can test it out this year and see how he works alongside Steph Curry. And if it doesn't, you don't have to re-sign him. And even if it turns out that when you actually get to the market and someone offers more than what you're willing to offer for him, and that's okay, it's still worth trying, especially from Golden State Warriors position where you have Draymond Green and Steph Curry that are playing at they are such unbelievable talents, both still at their peaks, and they're being wasted with the amount of talent they have around them and the way that the team is constructed. And I really like Andrew Wiggins, so hopefully he wouldn't be part of a trade if there was one. Kelly Oubre is arguably the one that's going to headline that package, unless Houston are not interested whatsoever. But Houston are just looking to tank at this stage, and I'd be really surprised if Victor Oladipo ended up on the Houston Rockets still even after the trade deadline. That would be really weird. Now, the next thing I wanted to talk about was the buyout market. Now, the buyout market in recent history, I feel like has been a lot bigger than it usually has. It's turned out into a contenders pool where they kind of just pick the players that they want. And I've always been against buyouts because you can never really incorporate that player into your system as easily. You can get them on like smaller minutes and maybe like further away from the bench, if that makes sense. And the Clippers were kind of like proof last year where they picked up loads of players to try and bolster their team on paper, and then you kind of put them on the basketball court, and really they could have gotten bounced in the first round if Kristaps Porzingis was injured. So I'm not a big fan of going all out on the buyout market. However, if you have a player of Andre Drummond's caliber on the buyout market, which by the way should be completely and utterly blasphemous, yeah, that should be completely and utterly blasphemous that a player of that caliber is being bought out. But it seems to be going that way. And actually, can I just pause for a second? Can I just ask, how is it possible that it must be a lie. The Cleveland Cavaliers claim that they have offers, but they want more. They want either an extra youngster or an extra pick or something along the lines, because they want players and picks that will fit the timeline of the players that they have right now. So if they already have offers, why would they buy him out and get nothing? It don't make sense unless every single trade includes one player that has a large contract that they don't want to absorb. Maybe that's the reason, or it's just a lie, right? But we're gonna find out. Because if he gets bought out, then I don't think anyone offered him anything that was substantial. Because if it was substantial, they'd rather take that than let him go for free. But we're just gonna assume that Andre Drummond is gonna get bought out, and he's way too good to get bought out. He can give you 20-20 any given night. He will average 15 rebounds, especially if he plays on this Nets team. He's going to rebound everything, right? And the rumors are, now that I've mentioned it, are that the Nets and the Lakers are the favorites. I really don't know why the Clippers are not really in this argument, because I'm sure that they can move a few pieces to try and make it happen, or at least create the space for that to happen, because I think they could really use him. But we're just going to talk about the Lakers, and then we're going to talk about the Nets. Now, the thing with the Lakers is that their team is built really, really well. Kudos to Pelinka and to Bus also for having constructed this team, but the whole Marc Gasol thing hasn't really worked out, at least not yet anyway. And things can turn around. Things might even turn around in the playoffs. You just don't know. However, they clearly have a need at that center position, and Andre Drummond can take that. Now, is Andre Drummond willing to be in a position where he's getting less minutes? I don't know. But is he going to get touches? Oh, guaranteed. He will get his touches. Will he get as many touches, obviously, as he did at Cleveland and with the Pistons? Then no. Will the offense run through him? No. But will he be more efficient? Yes. Is he going to get better shots? Yes. So I like the Lakers. I like him going to the Lakers purely because they could use him. But they're not the only one that could use him. The Nets need him at this point, because I feel like he's one of the best players that they at this stage can get. Now, we know that the Nets need defense. And they actually already have 2 full-blown centers and 1 player in Blake Griffin that can play center that he has to compete with for minutes. But on top of competing for minutes, he has to compete for touches, because he has to not only compete with his other teammates, or the other role players, he has to compete with KD, Kyrie, and James Harden, which is really, really hard, right? You could sell yourself and say, well, he's going to be open so much that he's going to get open looks nearly every trip down. Or if he does a pick and roll, that it'll more than often lead to dunks, which is true. And I actually believe that him going to the Nets will benefit him more than it would with the Lakers. For one, he's going to get starter minutes. He is going to get touches. Again, not as many touches as he would with the Cavaliers or with the Pistons, or at least what he had with them, but he's going to get more touches purely because of the fact that KD, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving are all very willing passers, guys. They're all really willing passers. Will he get as much, if we then talk about it in terms of, but what about Andre Drummond himself? He's still young. He's about 26, 27 years old. He's still young. He hasn't technically, with the way that centers go, hasn't really reached his peak yet, because centers usually peak way late, and their peaks are always a lot shorter, but they peak later. So he could still improve. But will he be able to showcase what he can do with the Brooklyn Nets or with the Lakers? And the answer is no. And will that affect his pocket? I don't know. Is there a team that is willing to spend top dollar and a 4 or 3 year contract on him? I don't know. The problem with this from Andre Drummond's perspective is that he ends up taking a smaller contract, a smaller and a shorter contract, a cheaper and a shorter contract, just to prove himself all over again. I don't know if that's something that he wants to do. And I already feel like the media's against him anyway. I don't know, man. I rate him really highly, guys. I rate him so highly. And I think he should be paid a hefty amount for what he offers. And I don't know if he goes to the Lakers and the Nets, or even the Clippers, or even the Milwaukee Bucks, or any of these contenders. Like, if he joined any of them, I don't think he'll be able to truly showcase who he is, and I don't know if he'll then get the bag. But obviously we can't predict anything. He could turn out to be an absolute superstar, average 20 points and 13 rebounds or something stupid like that on one of the teams. You never know. But it's really hard. But now that we've spoken about the Brooklyn Nets, let me go into them a little bit deeper, because I always said that the thing with the Brooklyn Nets is that they have so much offense that they are going to win a lot of games purely off of that. They're just going to outscore you. Will that work in the playoffs? Absolutely not. Are there players that are going to get targeted? Absolutely. But they've got so many superstars now, and they've all accepted very, very, very specific roles, that this thing might just work out only if they really, really, really manage to fill this team out properly and get a proper run leading up to the playoffs. Right now, KD is injured, so we can't judge them on all the winning that they're doing. Because once KD comes back, the ball is going to be out of Kyrie's hands a bit more. The ball is going to be out of James Harden's hands a little bit more. So we don't know what's going to happen to them in terms of their mentality. The outcome will just be the same, but in terms of mentality, when the three of them play a very large stretch of time and everything is set, what will happen? I think they'll be good because, again, they focused on specific jobs. James Harden is now the de facto point guard, and everyone is like all up in arms about how he sacrificed. Like, he sacrificed a lot, but he was playing point guard for Houston Rockets as well. He had the ball. The only difference is that he was hunting for his own shots a lot more than he was hunting other players' shots. And you have to remember that he averages an insane amount of assists regardless. Now that's gone up, and the quality of his assists have now gone better, and that is his role now. KD's become like an off-the-ball, catch it, dribble, shoot type of guy that we know. KD can just do whatever the hell he wants to do. And clearly, and I think this is what I like the most about what's going on, is that KD just cares about the rings. And you can see that in him. Because if he didn't care about the rings, guys, he would have averaged a lot more than what he's averaging right now. I could guarantee you that. He could have demanded the ball a lot more. He could have had this whole ego trip going on where he basically just kind of like hints at the media that he's the number one guy, and that hasn't happened. So clearly he has decided that that's the role he wants to fill. And then Kyrie Irving is playing off the ball a little bit more. But what people fail to understand, he's been doing that. He did that when he was playing with LeBron James. I always used to say, like, one way of making a tandem work, a two superstar team, and we're just going to ignore Kevin Love for a second. He's a superstar, we're just going to ignore him for a second, right? Is that you can either play off of each other, or you can play off of your teammates. That's kind of like what the Golden State Warriors used to do, where the center used to like just watch everyone just cut and run. Or you could be that good where it's just like a to me to you. I'll give you the ball, you go run, now give me the ball, now I'll run. That worked. He won a ring that way. And now what you're telling me is that he's going to do that with the Brooklyn Nets playing alongside James Harden and KD. where he's off the ball, he gets for stretches of the game, he's off the ball, and then you just give him the ball, and now it's his turn to just create offense for himself and his team. And then just to end it, right? It's just ridiculous. Just the way I view him as a regular season team is ridiculous. I don't know how this is going to look during the playoffs. But they ended up getting Blake Griffin also. So let me spend the last minute quickly talking about Blake Griffin. Now, with the Pistons, you had a 30-minute per game. Blake Griffin taking a lot of shots, taking a lot of inefficient shots because he had to. He was still one of the best players on that team. Now, obviously, Jeremy Grant has come up and clearly played better than him. But that didn't work. You could also tell a lot of the times when he was playing is he didn't seem up to the task. He seemed a little bit gassed, if that makes sense. Like he wasn't really ready to take on that many minutes and that many shots and that much of a load. Now take that 30-minute per game Blake Griffin and change that to 15-minute per game Blake Griffin. And now change the 15 shots per game and change that to 7 or 8 shots per game. Now we're talking something different. Now let's stop these long twos and let's reduce the number of threes you're taking. But KD, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving will make sure that you get the ball and get a layup. You just need to be ready. But on top of that, you can handle the ball. You're an amazing passer for a guy in your position. You can still hit shots. He can, I believe, still play in the post. Obviously, they're not going to get him to do that, but he can. I think the only concern with this is, does he stay fit? I think that's the only downside to this signing. Guys, all he has to do is stay fit, and this will end up in a positive. They can't lose. If I'm really trying to wrap my head around just how good this could turn out for them. Worst case scenario is he's injured and he's not fit and he doesn't play many games, and that's okay. Or it doesn't turn out that he can turn into that Draymond Green for Brooklyn Nets, and you just cut his minutes down drastically and then give more minutes to your Nicholas Claxtons or whatever. Does that make sense? Man, I think I've waffled way too much now. Guys, I'm going to put a stop to it there. If you like the video, please like the video. Subscribe if you're new. And we are going to drop content once a week. So hopefully I will see you next week. Peace.